Hi, it's Mav. Trigger warnings are in the description below. Thank you for listening, and please enjoy. Where Nothing Bleeds by Interstellarisms. Read by Maverick. Chapter 3. Synchronized. It's the first time he's eaten real food. Well, as real as they could get. Ryland said that there were still the rations from his ship. And yet, they tasted so much better than the flavorless bricks the SM-13 had for sustenance. He didn't even have enough for it to last for a week. No point in wasting resources. They probably assumed he wouldn't live long enough to run out anyway. He takes a bite of the rehydrated sausages and scrambled eggs. It's glorious. This was the kind of food that would have made him believe in God if he was still in that sub. How is it? He looks up. Ryland walks in, wearing a smile on his face. He always had a bit of a smile on his face. Is it because he was a teacher? He mentioned he used to teach grade schoolers earlier. Is that what all grade school teachers look like? Always smiling, like they're always primed for you to ask them something? It's good, he responds gruffly. Do you have more? Oh, yeah, plenty. The Hail Mary was a crew of 3 people, so there's plenty of food to go around for a while. I'm glad I get to share it now. 3 people. Then why was he alone? Should he ask him? It felt like a deeply personal question. If the other crew members weren't here, then it'd be better to assume they were long dead. Otherwise, they'd be here to see the person they saved. And it seemed like whenever Ryland talked about we, he usually meant me and Rocky. It's been so long since he's had a proper conversation with another human being who isn't behind a broken, staticky speaker. But it's good to finally speak to a face. A real pretty face, at that. Tender-hearted, gorgeous blonde. Seriously, that eel fish fuck must have fried his brain, because he can't explain why 60% of his active thoughts were about how hot Ryland was. It should be about the situation. He was on a goddamn alien planet, for fuck's sake. There were rock aliens running around. He's so far from Earth he might as well be dead. And yet, his mind can't help but focus on the hot blonde teacher in front of him. Maybe it's a side effect of the trauma. He was trapped in that rusty piece of shit for so long that the first drop of kindness from another living soul started feeling like a shot of heroin. That's how it felt. Simon never missed how the scientist's voice dips in certain sentences, like whenever he asks him about his injuries, or how life in Eden was like. He didn't have many answers for him about the latter. He could only catch glimpses of it himself. Grace was always stupidly gentle with him. He laughs at Simon's dry, uninteresting responses. He nods in curiosity every time Simon explains something about the SM-13. He was diligent with being the one to bring him water and food instead of leaving it for the robot to do. He hadn't left the bed since he woke up, and while Grace respected his privacy, he also stopped by frequently just to check up on him. Normally, he would hate being fussed over so frequently, but it was the opposite of suffocating. Over the course of a few days, he finds himself looking forward to seeing the teacher enter the room. Each glimpse of his smile felt like the perfect appetizer to the meals he ate. As stupidly corny as that sounded, that's how it felt. Nourishment. He doesn't know if he trusts all of this yet. For all he knows, this could be one massive lie the COI created. Maybe Ryland was one big hallucination, concocted from his greatest desires. Although he wouldn't know why Rocky would be a part of those desires. Either way, he finds himself fighting with the reality of the situation. Wherever he was, This was better than the COI. And this was better than Earth, too. How would Earth receive someone like him? He doesn't imagine he'd be hailed as a hero. Someone like him didn't make a good saint. There was nothing saintly about what he did in that submarine. Maybe the SM-13 was the lie. Maybe the stars never vanished in the first place. How could they have? Ryland was here. Rocky's planet was here. Even if it had been completely real to Simon at the time, there was no disputing what was happening in the present. Maybe it was time to let go of the past and accept where he was. It was about time he asked Ryland about himself. He knew about the Petrova line, about astrophage, about Tau Ceti. He knew about his rather complex relationship with Rocky, too. It was one of the main things Ryland was eager to ramble about, and once he got started with it, you couldn't get him to stop. Simon didn't mind it, this time. Now that he wasn't panicking about where he was or what happened to him, he could finally pay attention to Ryland's info dumps without letting them go over his head. Hey. Ryland looks up at him from where he was sitting. Across the foot of his bed, just like always. He's writing on a clipboard. Grading students, he called it. Apparently, he was also teaching Iridian kids. He must be one hell of a teacher to be teaching a bunch of alien creatures about science. A handsome, talented scientist with a gift of teaching. Someone like him was far better suited to be called a hero. The Hail Mary had 3 people on board, Simon starts. He sees Grace brace himself, pursing his lips. He's about to touch on a hard topic. Yeah. It was a skeleton crew of 3 people. It was the bare minimum for what they needed for Project Hail Mary. They needed a scientist, an engineer, and a pilot. Simon sees the look on his face waver. He's never seen him look like that before. Something in his stomach twists. He doesn't break eye contact with him, even if Grace finds it hard to look him in the eye. They couldn't just take volunteers from Earth. The big boss lady that led the project, she worked with researchers to develop a plan for humans to live long enough to make it to Tau Ceti without killing each other. They came up with the induced coma, but they found out that only people with a specific coma-resistant gene could actually manage to survive it. Being in a coma for that long is very dangerous, so they needed to make sure the people they sent wouldn't die prematurely. So they chose 4 candidates. I had to teach those 4 about astrophage biology. He had to teach them about astrophage biology? You weren't a part of the crew. He lets out a small, dry laugh. He sees the look in Grace's eyes, and part of him regrets asking that question. No, I wasn't. Then why the hell was he here? Why was he so far away from home? Simon's brows furrow, and he keeps explaining. They had a very limited pool of candidates. Only 1 in 7,000 people actually had the coma-resistant gene. And not only that, they needed to be trained scientists and astronauts that had intimate knowledge about the project. So that's what was bothering him. He was a middle school teacher. Why was he in space? One day, while we were out of the lab, an explosion happened. They miscalculated the amount of astrophage by a milligram instead of a nanogram, and it killed 2 candidates with those very specific qualifications that were supposed to be selected for the mission. Oh. He's piecing it together now. Dread pulls in his stomach. He leans forward. We were now short of 2 candidates, and there was no time left to train someone else, or scour through a pool of participants. They chose the next best option. And that was you, Simon finishes. Grace nods grimly. But you told me it was a one-way trip. They didn't send you with enough astrophage to make it back home. Grace doesn't answer him, but that was more than enough. They sent him here to die. And despite all impossibilities, Grace lived. Not only that, he saved the entire universe. It was only here where Simon realizes who he was talking to. This nerdy, awkward school teacher was the reason life would keep going. Without his sacrifice, Earth and Irid would have been done for. You're incredible, Simon huffs. Well, he could probably say it nicer, but he can't help his default tone. Grace suddenly coughs, and he swears he sees the scientist's face turn 10 different shades of red. I wouldn't say that. It was really all Rocky. Without his help, I would have been stuck out there not knowing what to do. Heroes tended not to take the credit. You're incredible, Simon pushes, stubbornly. They sent you here to die, and you did the exact opposite. Grace fidgets. Was he uncomfortable with compliments? Part of Simon didn't care. He deserved to know that. Yeah, well, I could say the same for you. I don't know what happened with the SM-13, and I don't know if we can verify the quiet rapture, but the fact that you're here means something. You learned how to navigate an ocean of blood without any training, just relying on your wits. And you did it on a submarine that definitely should not have passed inspection. You survived too. He doesn't see it in the same way. Sure, they were both sent out to die, but Grace had the entire world's knowledge in the palm of his hand. He told him the Hail Mary had the entire internet uploaded into its database. Not only that, but Grace knew where he was going and what his course of action was. He was naturally smart, a problem solver. Simon was none of those things. I had no idea what I was doing, Simon mutters. I had no training. I didn't even get an orientation. I just woke up in that submarine, and I found out I couldn't get out. And I had to search for something I didn't even know was real. Grace is silent for a while. The disparity of their situation was abundantly clear, despite how similar their circumstances were. Grace couldn't imagine going through what Simon did, and Simon doesn't know what he would even do if he had been in Grace's position. I'm sorry. He reaches forward and gently places a hand on Simon's shoulder. I'm really sorry, Simon. I can't even imagine what you went through. And frankly, from how you describe it, even just imagining it is terrifying, let alone living it. I'm so sorry. Tears well up in Simon's eyes. He never realized how long he's waited for someone to say that. To just understand what it was like in that submarine, searching in the depths of hell. All he could remember were people yelling at him, telling him this is how it's supposed to go, that it was all for the greater good, that he had no choice, that he was going to die without ever seeing the sun again. He stares into Grace's pools of blue eyes, his bright blonde hair. The sun was right here. I just wanted to live. Simon speaks, voice trembling. More tears welled up in his eyes, throat tightening from emotion. That's all he really wanted, right? All he wanted was to live. I just wanted to live. I know. A breath of relief leaves him when he's enveloped by Grace's arms. Oh, God. His touch, his embrace, the scent of his clothes, the warmth of his chest, the soft skin of his hands, the tightness of the hug. He doesn't know why, but the feeling of another human's heartbeat against his own makes the dam break. He starts sputtering and sobbing like a child, wrapping his own arms around Grace's midsection. Grace's hand cups the back of Simon's own, holding him through all his trembling. He squeezes him as tight as he could. He was wary about it at first, worried that a hug would feel claustrophobic, but Simon was gripping him back just as hard. Simon buries his face in Grace's neck and just cries his heart out, letting out pained, broken sobs as the weight of the universe is finally lifted from his shoulders. He never had to see the SM-13 again. He never had to see an ocean of blood again. He was no longer constrained to disembodied voices that kept demanding the impossible of him. It was over. It was all over. He was free. Is this what freedom felt like? Being held in the arms of someone who cared. This must be it. This is what living was supposed to feel like. Simon doesn't let go, and Grace stays in place. His hand gently pets the back of Simon's head. You're here now, with me. Outside the room, Rocky was watching. He sees the faint outline of the two humans embracing, and he finally realizes what a hug was supposed to look like. With their bodies pressed close to each other, and their hearts beating in sync. Humans were truly fascinating. Hi everyone, Mav here. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Updates on this podfic will be out every 5 days, so hit that subscribe button to follow along. If you guys have any fics you want me to read, just drop them in the comments or DM me on Instagram. My username is maverick.mp3, except the A in Maverick is a 4, so M4VERICK.mp3. Thank you so much, and have a great day.